Tour 3 of YCS Birmingham starting now. Let's get it.
Alrighty then, looks like a set 5 start from Crook here, but I think that this is just how he lays out his hand cards. We have the handshake. We're going to start game 1 of round 3, and CRYSTON, a heavy combo deck, even though Hellkite Vibrax is not in there anymore. We're going to see a huge combo here, I'm very sure of it.
I love this because Crook took the approach to include the Kashtira cards into his deck, and he has that new super powerful card that was just introduced in Supreme Darkness. Such a powerful card because this card, CRYSTON Tristaros, is everything that CRYSTON deck could have ever asked for, because if your opponent activates an effect, so very popular nowadays, having some hand interaction like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veil or Ash Blossom, Tristaros says, as a quick effect, I may as well just synchro summon with another material from the deck.
That does sound familiar for Supreme Darkness, because we now also ritual summon from the deck just a few years after we started fusion summoning from the deck, so I see a pattern.
Yeah, for sure. I like the evolution of all the summoning mechanics. Oh, we have to link off the Tristaros here, or do we synchro summon maybe even? But with the Fenrir, that would be level 9, so I'm not sure whether that's a synchro summon to be. Oh, of course it is, but that's a very interesting cover. That's not very standard. We have to go into the Vermilion Dragon mech here, which I haven't seen personally since Virtual times, to be honest.
You topped the YCS with that card in the extra deck.
Didn't really have to summon this card too often, to be honest. But yeah, it was in my deck, that's true. Okay, now we can use the graveyard effect though, so it's good to get that Tristaros into the graveyard, because not only does it have that super powerful on-field effect, but next up also the graveyard effect, able to banish itself. And yeah, you will realize both of these decks equally relying on banishing cards from the graveyard. Therefore, both of these duelists, both Marco and Crook, hopefully not having to face too many of those Lanceas in the opponent's side decks, but there is Domino's Impulse on the Tristaros.
That's huge, because you're missing out on so many effects. Summoning 2 monsters from the deck, already completely insane, but Vermilion Dragon Mech also should trigger when you destroy it and add back, I think, a banished monster, right?
Yeah, but that's a sad one. Pass Marco and his one trap card were powerful enough. So as I said, Crook very well able to interact with those effect veilers, infinite impermanence, and so on and so forth, but not with that so powerful Dominus Impulse.
Outplayed, I guess.
Yeah.
Very, very strong impulse.
I mean, to be fair, when you read that second effect of Tristaros, seeing, he can special summon 2 from the deck, you may as well just immediately go after it. And there we see Marco now revealing his deck to his opponent as well, MALIS in Underground. And Mike, let us know, you actually have played this deck a lot yourself recently, right? You have even topped the regional with it, don't you?
Yeah, indeed, back in Athens, but I think the MALIS in Underground is not a very good start, because it means that he probably doesn't have another name in his hand. However, it might be a bait in order to negate the special summon of probably Dormouse, and then he can actually normal summon a card like White Rabbit or even Dormouse and go through.
Yeah, very good call. Let's see, Marco definitely, by winning the first 2 rounds,
and he banished
knows what he does. That's
I was
interesting.
also gonna say that if you have MALIS in Underground and something like a Dormouse or a White Rabbit and you want more non-engine, you can start off with MALIS in Underground, special summon Jessie-Cat in quote-unquote from the deck. Now you banish it and then summon it back, and then you can get some more draws. But I don't think against this field you want more non-engine.
The only problem with that is that you reveal a lot of information from your hand.
That is true.
However, if Jessie-Cat goes through, it's a very good opening.
Yeah. Oh, this. I think it looked like another spell card, which should be another MALIS in Underground.
I think, yeah, we are banishing another MALIS in Underground. That's a huge start. Of course, Marco now behind on life points by paying 300 for that chassis card to come back, but still, of course, the 2 draws were super, super good.
I'm saying he has another name.
I would think so as well. I would not be surprised by that. Okay, we'll look into our extra deck.
Yes, because there's an interesting card in Marco's hand. He plays Metaltronus in the main deck. Do you believe that there is a target for Vermilion?
I mean, Vermilion is a fire monster.
Machine.
And it's a machine. Oh, machines for the MALIS deck. Honestly, I'm
And
struggling to find
attack.
any. 2/7 attack. I think Marco just checked for that. He was looking for his extra deck, trying to look at all the attack points, but I don't think there is anything, to be honest. Okay, there comes Linguribo. His little brother Linkuribo not around anymore, but Linguribo perfectly legal as another Cybers monster.
That one is interesting. Now we're banishing the Chessy Cat. Usually high value play this time around because we started with the Underground. Not that strong anymore. It feels like Marco was really hoping to draw an extra normal summon with this Chessy Cat effect.
It looks like it.
It looks like a miscalculation, because if you don't find the extra normal summon or the extender, then you might have just gone for Dormouse.
Ooh, Haggard Lizardos is the card we summon. Now the Druisworm will take care of the Vermilion, and by sending into the graveyard, I'm pretty sure that the Vermilion is not going to be able to trigger its effect. Oh wait, is it?
No. Destroyed.
Yeah, it's just destroyed. So Crook just put it to the graveyard. With banishing
I think
the
that
Lizardos.
she cannot activate the lizard without a mountain on the field.
Oh, that's a good catch. Yeah, Crook is reading it real quick, and is
Yes.
actually mentioning that as well.
Because if he bans itself, because it's a reptile, he can draw a card.
I think Marco is just desperately trying to go for his deck to finally find a normal summon of a MALIS monster, but there already is one. He does have the Dormouse, so all of that essentially was just some baiting to go. But we do have to just make sure there is still the Lizardos banished.
I mean, it loses its target, right? If you banish it.
So the Forbidden Drop is now activated from Crook, though, so he was prepared for that. We do negate the Dormouse. Looks like Marco just wants to hat in the battle phase. Oh, we cleared the field on Crook's side, meaning we can now finally activate the effect of the Molcharmi Fuvalos that we started with going first, explaining why Crook could not play too much on his opening turn when he opens those cards like that. But Marco says, hey, I still will have to go into my extra deck here.
There were quite some cards in the end that he couldn't use on his first turn. But the thing is, if your opponent doesn't really play on his first turn, do you want to give him really some Fuvalos draws? I do think that is not the case. I think that you're going to say, hey.
And he also has information about Crook's hand. It's a unicorn, if I recall.
Okay, I think judges have now also caught up to the situation with the Haggard Lizardos, so I think we're going to double check real quick on whether that can be activated. And I mean, I totally understand your reasoning, Mike. Like, there is no target. When you banish itself for cost, like, what monster on the field would you target to, like, reduce the attack with? And Marco is reading his own Haggard Lizardos there at the moment, and I think that is currently what we are figuring out there.
It's something that is hurting my brain thinking about it, because it feels like it's like a cat chasing its own tail and trying to bite it, right? You have a target on the field, which is the Haggard Lizardos, but if you banish it, it's gone. So what happens now? Is it the chicken or the egg?
Okay, look, it looks like we are rewinding. Oh, and I think he drew
The Dormouse.
the Dormouse off of the Lizardos. That changes everything.
Yeah.
That is massively important here.
That is going to...
And also the information from Droplet and Fuvalos, of course.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's see how we do that.
So I think while the players are rewinding the situation, let's go back to us to discuss the situation a little bit more in detail and how the CRYSTON deck actually wants to start their turns off, because we had an activation of the new card that was going to start something, but Dominance Impulse, still a phenomenal card.
It honestly also was one of the very few cards he could have had, because there is not that many. He's playing a bunch of Bestials, and that's why you play CRYSTON, because it's so immune against all those Bestials.
By the way.
Speaking of Bestials, play is resuming with Bestial Magnamut activating, so back to the table we go, seeing it live in action. Let's see. There is Magnamut.
He is now going to target the Magnamut. Yep, and that attack is now going to change, and now we have the Dormouse, and now the Droplet is being activated. Interesting situation here. Talent is going to be discarded at this point. Now Fuvalos is activated, and I think that this might be the point where you just pass again. You don't want your opponent to draw if they couldn't really play on the first turn. So I would understand if you just go, hey, end phase, search for a Druisworm or something.
I do think so. On the other hand, look, when you just go into something like, let's just say an SP Little Knight banishes the door. Oh wait, no, SP Little Knight would not even be able to banish here. Yeah, I think you might be right. Just passing it could be completely cool.
Also, the SP would give a draw immediately.
Yeah.
It's making your situation a lot worse.
I mean, then you get Dormouse. Dormouse would then also get you access to White Rabbit, and White Rabbit gives you a trap card. So I think there is reason, but like the Little Knight, of course, cannot banish, and therefore there would be an additional draw going into like Link Decoder first.
The Dormouse was activated already and negated, so I don't think you get the White Rabbit.
Oh, you're right. Oh, true, yeah. I was completely coping there. And we just go battle phase. Marco attacks the life points of Crook, and Crook therefore probably happy that he's getting another turn. And the Fuvalos, super impactful card, of course, this weekend. Loads of players relying on this card. It did stop Marco here, but it also gave no value to Crook, really, because he just gave up on the card in hand, so he has even less cards to play with now. But maybe he finds a desirable top deck now for his next turn.
Oh, and Baldrake is being searched, not even something like a Druid's Worm, but Baldrake is going to be an extra interaction for the field of Crook.
That is true. Crook thinking about things here. I mean, for the moment, Marco cannot bring out the Baldrake just yet because Crook does not have monsters on the field. But at some point, of course, Crook will have those monsters on the... Wait, though. There is no light and dark monsters in the graveyard at the moment,
Look
is
at
there?
the Druid's Worm.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, I was confused because Marco is left-handed, so I was like, there's only a Madison Underground in the graveyard. Oh, there is now the Kashtira Unicorn. We all know with small fields, with simplified game states, the Kashtira cards are very popular for being so good in those game states. And Crook is not only using those Kashtira cards because they're so good on their own, but he's using the Kashtira cards actually, and I'm hopefully ready to see this here. He's using them to transition into his CRYSTON engine in a very unique way, because if you get those 2 level 7 monsters on the field, what could be a cool rank 7 to go into, possibly? Any ideas?
Dracosac.
Dracosac it is. Then you go for the 2 tokens. Oh, Metaltronus, but on the Unicorn. So Marco does have a target for that. In the main deck, 2,500 tech. Any Bestial works here, right? Yeah. Yep, it does. We do bring out the Druid's Worm from our deck. And the Unicorn. Oh, Crook.
Can he actually activate Metaltronus?
Why?
I think it's supposed to be two of the stats, yet.
Okay,
it's
so
not the same type, it's not the same attribute, but it's
the same attack only.
It's only the same. Oh, sure. I was just casually saying that it's only going to be the same attack, but yeah, you're right. It has to be 2 different things. You're so right. And I think... Oh, Crook is, I think, revealing his last card in hand there. Okay, judges just... Oh, yeah, I think the judges are catching up to it. That Metaltronus. Yep. Crook is realizing as well there.
Metaltronus is like a small world.
Yes,
in a
very
sense.
comparable to that card for sure.
And there's going to be the Infinite
also.
Impermanence. I mean, you got some extra information there as well, which is something to consider for the judges of this situation, because getting extra information via a wrong card activation can be something.
Unicorn, however, in any case, is very good against Malis, because Malis extra deck is very strict. So he's a very handful effect to banish extra deck monsters.
Taking out a White Binder is huge.
Yeah, that's probably the first thing that you hit with Unicorn.
I wouldn't even think about it. Maybe there are other cards that are better against your deck, but if I see a Malis extra deck and I get to banish something, I would take the White Binder.
Okay, so actually, we're bringing it back over to us. Here we are, because I think, well, if the Unicorn gets stopped. But yeah, we have confirmation. True, Now, it was actually a game loss for Marco. You got to make sure, even on the feature match stage, that you properly resolve your cards and only activate them when you can actually activate them. And therefore, even though the start was not looking promising for Crook and his CRYSTON deck, he's up a game with that.
I mean, we have to take in mind that it's very nervous to play on stage in front of so many people, and it's totally logical to make some wrong moves. Yeah,
that's true. But still, you have to be aware of that and have to execute your deck. And I mean, he probably has been testing a lot. Marco is from Italy, so even he took the journey to be here for this tournament, so he definitely invested some time and energy into this tournament. And I'm sure he usually knows his stuff, but there, I don't think he thought about the Metaltronus targets against the CRYSTON deck necessarily. But honestly, this might be one of the main factors for this event. I believe, and I'm making this call right now here, Metaltronus might be one of the most influential tech cards for this event. I think main decking Metaltronus for this tournament specifically, and we already saw that tendency last weekend over in the US from YCS Orlando. I think it's a really, really good decision because it has such major applications. It's such a strong card overall, defensively, aggressively, enabling you to extend sometimes even. So I think if I would be playing, I would definitely be thinking about Metaltronus, but you have to know every single matchup with it and how you can use it against these matchups. And we saw just here, against the Kashtira Unicorn, not that easy to use it.
Yeah, illegal activations are a problem if you do too many of those. And yeah, you said it earlier, there are nerves on stage. I remember when we were doing a Time Wizard 2010 tournament on stage, I activated a Heavy Storm and didn't even destroy my own field spell, just grinning into Busty's face and then activating afterwards. So it does happen. It does happen even if there is no pressure. So yeah, that is a common mistake people make. But you're right about Metal Drone as this card. I mean, the thing is, if you test a lot and you know your deck, you're very unlikely to make wrong activations. Yeah. If you're playing against basically every single captain, you have to interact with your cards against opponents' cards that are not that common in the meta, even though the Kashtira cards have been very popular in past formats.
They have.
It's much more likely that you're doing a little slip up here.
Yeah, but now honestly, the interesting part, and I know you are in love with the MALIS deck, you have some love for it as well because you have been playing it too, but I would be so scared putting myself into that big of a tournament with 12 rounds of Swiss when I know that every single person in the venue has Artifact Lancea in their side deck. Like, how do you eliminate that factor? How do you go into a tournament? Do you just say, hey, when it happens, and I will have to do the best out of it and win the other games? Or is there a different approach to it?
So the approach is, there are two approaches post side deck. The one is probably play the Thrust Engine with Sanctum and Debarrier.
Fair.
So in case that you get Lancia, you will set one of those big impactful traps fair. Pass again. And the other approach is to play Cross Out. However, there is a chance that you also get Meowls and you then have to play a lot of cards that are not very good going first. So I think the best approach is to play Thrust Engine.
Probably, yeah. And I mean, yeah, you just said it. Meowls now also think. So it's basically not only free Lanceas, but also the free Meowls that a lot of people are considering. But let's see what those options are going to be here in game number 2. Players are ready, so back over to the table we go. Game number 2 coming your way.
And I think that Jeff Jones, put it completely correctly, you kind of have to win game 1 with MALIS.
Yeah.
It's very important that if Lancea is not in the deck, MALIS is arguably a much stronger engine than the Ryziels. I know, hot take, but you want to win that game, and then post side going first, you have more options to beat Lancea. If your opponent puts up a combo, it's very tough to play
against. And we talked about this card, newly introduced in Supreme Darkness. Mulcharmy Meowth join the Mulcharmy family, being the third one of them. And this one does not only interact with cards from the graveyard, but also from the Banished Stone, which is way more important. There's also the Mulcharmy Fubalos. The whole family is there, apparently.
But we're already down to 3 cards in a combo deck. If you are having great cards in your hand that could stop your opponent, if you're hiding in trap cards going first, there is a good chance that versus a hand of 4 cards, you can actually play it. I think that Marco has a trap card in his hand already. He's going to summon out the Dormouse, so I think we're maybe putting up a little field here versus Fuvalos, giving like 1 or 2 draws.
No, I think it's probably be White Rabbit to set follow-up with a trap. Crook doesn't get any search. And then I think that Solemn Strike will do the job.
Does he also play something like an IP Masquerena? Because if you're setting TV 11, you could set up Masquerena and the next turn summon out something for free without having to banish, and then go into IP and play an SP play.
Yeah, he does play IP Masquerena.
I think that would be fine. I think I would take my opponent having 1 draw for me to have IP Masquerena.
Corruption.
Sounds reasonable, I would agree. So Marco, what is he agreeing on? Of course, now having the pressure on his back, being down a game against Crook, not necessarily maybe being 100% familiar with what the CRYSTON deck is able to do, and therefore now facing this Mulcharmy, Fuvalos resolving on him as well. Not the easiest situation to be in, but I'm sure Marco will find an answer to those questions, and he does.
MP7, I think.
MP7, yeah. Oh, wait, is it?
No,
yeah, it's MP7.
Yeah, it's MTV07. You're right.
I always call it 05. I don't know. But that's an
Can't help
choice.
You on that, to be honest.
I mean, you don't have to. But that's a rather interesting choice, because to get the powerful banish effect, you need to have a MALIS Link monster on the field. We're going into the Lingering, which is going to
first
give a draw here, and that is already a heavy commitment.
It is indeed. So maybe
We're
Marco
going
just
in.
says, I will do it, no matter what. And we do now use the effect of the Bestial in hand, banishing the White Rabbit. There's our Jury's Worm.
I thought that's what you play the IP for. To be honest, that if you get Fuvalos, you still have a feel.
Okay.
No, it's part of the basic combo actually.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh, there we go for Cryptor now. Crook reading the Cryptor, but Crook, you know what? Before that, even draw a card yourself, because that is another summon from the extra deck, and Mulchami Fuvalos is heavily respecting that. And okay, that's it. We're passing after this. That is not too amazing, honestly.
So Marco now has 2 banish as an interruption, and of course the Solemn Strike.
That's not too bad. And also,
Oh, there's
his
a Solemn
opponent is
Strike.
just at regular 6 cards in hand now. So he discarded 2, he drew 2.
Right, so Crook, does he have answers to this? Just a regular good old Happiest Feather
Oh, wow.
Duster, for example, would be a pretty good start into this, and those cards have been becoming more popular again, because cards like Solemn Strike are really popular at the moment, so just having a card that could get rid of multiple of those cards, maybe an Infinite Impermanence along the lines of that too.
That hand looks phenomenal, by the way, when it comes
Does
to
it?
non-engine. I can see a Nibiru, which is suboptimal, but 2 spell cards. Spell cards usually very good non-engine right now, and now we're going to see some Crystron plays. And now, Buster, we have to resort
course.
to you here.
Yep,
to
that
go,
is going to
through
be
this with
the
us.
Crystron Soul Fafnir in the graveyard or in the hand, as we just see here. You can discard a Crystron monster, accept itself, and then you special summon this Soul Fafnir to the field and then destroy a card you control. Guess what? You will just destroy itself. And then you have the Tristaros in the graveyard, which we just saw has such an amazing graveyard effect set up. And of course, then also the Sylfafnir, which can special summon another Crystron monster from your deck in defense position. There you go, destroying it. Graveyard effect of Sylfafnir. There you go.
This looks a lot like Memento at the moment, so I see why you like it.
Yep, for sure. It is a really, really cool and unique combo deck, bringing something new to the meta game, even though it has its roots so long ago, right? Because the initial wave of Crystron support is ages ago, but the support now is really impactful, but it's still using those older cards back in the day from Invasion of Vengeance, actually. That's where the Crystron cards are from, which is, how many years ago is that? That's 10 years
That
plus,
was-
right, at
no,
this point?
Invasion of Vengeance was the set where Totally Awesome came out. So
Oh.
that's 2017 or late 2016.
Okay, almost 10 years
I think
then.
it was about November.
Okay, fair enough.
Why do I know this?
Our history man here. History of Yu-Gi-Oh!
It
Okay.
was just after Worlds was won by Blue Eyes. That was right after that YCS Liverpool happened.
Fair.
Would the strike on Sulfador would be appropriate, or there is a better target?
I mean, you mean the graveyard effect or the hand effect?
The field effect, that when it's summoned,
Oh,
it
the
sends...
Sulfador now.
Yeah.
You could do it. Honestly, I think you're really just waiting for them
Yeah.
to maybe go into a Synchro Summon,
But
honestly.
the thing is that most of these cards just activate and then Synchro Summon, right? So does that count as a summon that you can negate with Solemn Strike? Or is this an effect summon?
When you're playing on your opponent's turn, that is true, but I think on your own turn, you're very often just using regular Synchro Summons, and therefore that's not really an issue. But now we first of all go into the graveyard effect of the Crystron inclusion. But very good question, actually. Whether Tristaros...
Actually, if a card says you do this and then you Synchro Summon, I think it's still a summon
It's
that
a
you can
regular
strike.
Synchro Summon, yeah, I
Because
think so too.
you're just allowed to do this within the chain.
All right, Smyger. That's the level 3 Crystron I was talking about so much. One of the first released cards of the Crystron type altogether. And now in the graveyard, being ready to search another spell card from the deck. And I think it is going to be just another copy of Crystron Inclusion, as we have not even activated on the field yet. Only used the graveyard effect so far.
That's also one of the good effects, right? It just gives you a Crystron card directly from the deck when you activate it. Those are my favorite continuous spells that have great effects in the graveyard and on activation as well.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Do you know which card would be great against inclusion? Oh, we have MTP07, which is great against inclusion. I was going to say Cosmic Cyclone as well, but this does the job. You now gain some value by adding a Malice card from your deck to your hand that you get to
Note that it can be asked though, and the bans will not go off if Crook has a Nash in his hand.
I mean, also now with Marco activating a card, that means Crook could technically chain the Tristaros effect on the field, as that is a quick effect on his own turn, but also on his opponent. And there we go. Crook is using Tristaros, so we are now going to see, possibly for the first time, that Synchro Summon with a monster from the deck, if Marco does not want to have a word with that.
But if you strike this now, you can just...
It's tough.
He's going to get the graveyard effect, possibly. You have to destroy a Synchro monster for that, right? for the graveyard effect
Which one do you mean?
of Solf, the new CRYSTON.
So let's see.
For the Tristeros, yeah. So you have to pop a Synchro Monster, no?
I mean, we already used the graveyard effect
Yeah.
to banish itself this turn. Wait, did
No.
we? No, we did
That
not
was in
even.
the first game, so you need to destroy a machine Synchro Monster you control. So if you strike this now and your opponent can't play on, there is a chance you end the turn. And I think this is
there
what
is
Marco
a
is
solid
going
strike.
for. Because at this point, this is almost back against the wall. You have the Hard Crypta effect, but that's about it afterwards. So you really need to... Oh, that inclusion goes banished, I'm
And
pretty sure.
Tracerus doesn't need to actually use himself to synchro summon. So even if Cryptar goes off, it doesn't matter because he can synchro summon with another target.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, very true. So that was very good that he did it there because we could have just otherwise synchro summoned with the other monster on the field, which would have been a possible problem. We're searching for Dormouse. Marco needs all the follow-up he can get here. But does Crook have another push here? Because he definitely drew multiple cards with that Fuvalos there, so there's potential.
And now looking at this, there is another Fuvalos and a Meowth there in hand, but there's...
That's his
two
graveyard.
more.
So,
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Of
you're
course
absolutely right about that. But Marco, very smartly, not playing into something like Triple Tactics, Thrust, or Talents, hasn't activated a monster effect yet. The Hard Crypta is sitting there waiting to be activated, but doesn't have to now. We're going to activate Droplet here.
I think we're trying to bring a monster into the graveyard that we want to be in the graveyard for it to possibly activate its effect. Checking the graveyard of Marco first of all, though. What is it going to be that we discard here? That has to be the
Nibiru
reason.
is
Oh,
the
no,
best
that's
graveyard resource in the game.
not necessarily, I would say. But Crook really keen on doing that here. Looking for his graveyard, checking out that Tristaros. Yeah, we tried to resolve that graveyard effect on the first game.
However, note that
I think we just go
Typhon.
Oh, we just go Typhon here.
Huh.
There is Typhon.
Well,
But
that
I mean,
works.
Typhon doesn't really do anything against the Dormouse that now is sitting in the hand of Marco, though.
Fair point, yeah.
So that means no more monsters are going to be summoned this turn. We know that from Typhon. Actually, Typhon has not been super popular in like the first couple of months after its release, but now with Ryzeal being such a big factor in the meta game, all of a sudden Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis is amazingly often played, and many people are relying on it because when you summon this into a Detonator, guess what? Detonator can't activate its effect, and you can just put it back into the extra deck with ease.
Yep, but you have to have some more follow-up. Typhon isn't going to give you the win immediately because a lot of the time there are some Ryzeals in hand and they can just play as they want, especially if there is a Fiendsmith engine in there as well. Typhon is going to kick for 2,900 damage here.
And I like the fact that he sent Cryptar back to the extra deck because if it's in the graveyard,
Yeah.
it's very impactful. For example, a Bestial top deck.
That is indeed true.
We discarded the Nibiru here, which could have been something to fall back on if things go south in the next turn. Because if you don't have any interaction, that's just gonna be full combo for Marco.
Maybe we just do have another Nibiru. I could only imagine, right?
He
Because
did.
what other cards do we want to have? Maybe we have Effect Veiler just to stop the Dormouse right away. That could be something.
The reason behind it was that I think Crook has only spells in his hand, if I can...
I think I see the card in the hand, and this could be an end to the turn of Marco. Lancea, now look at the life points, 3,300. It's very, very close to game already if Typhon attacks over the Dormouse there. Dormouse not looking too strong. We are in main phase though.
Yeah,
so
but
this
Marco
played
has a talent.
Oh, it is triple tactic talent, so maybe Crook should have just preemptively done that. The problem though with doing it preemptively, of course, is 2,900 is not 3,300, so you may as well just have Marco pass, and you're in a bit of a iffy situation as well, but now Marco has to decide.
It's just a game of chance that you're playing in that situation. Do I just use it immediately, or do I play into the talents after my opponent committed into the Dormouse?
However, Crook could wait there for Cryptar effect to activate on probably Typhon, because he has also, Crook has also a talent, so he could hit Cryptar and activate in his turn.
Oh, we're taking the Typhon over!
Yeah, I mean, you have to get rid of it somehow, and I think linking this off into something like an SP could help here. Yes, you can't banish anything because Lancea has already resolved. However, it's a form of interruption on the next turn. Depending on what you have in hand, I think it's Dimensional Shifter that is not going to help you too much.
But I mean, exactly what I was talking about during the side decking process, right? Crook came so prepared for the MALIS matchup. He has both Mulch armies and then also Lancea, and Marco, as we can see, is struggling so hard with that.
I mean, the thing is, what you can also do, you still have White Rabbit banished, right? So you just go, oh, you can't go into Splash Mage. Never mind.
Indeed, he cannot. Let's see.
Cybers for that.
Marco really going to have a look at his entire extra deck here, essentially.
Does he have Dark? No, it's going to be SP as the last
exactly
resort.
what you mentioned, Leo.
But if he had a Dark, then he could have also not summoned anything important there.
Oh, and I think Crook just drew another Lancea, but he does still, of course, have the Tristaros in the graveyard, which, though, is not going to do anything without a Synchro Monster on the field. Therefore, Crook has to pass it right back over. Marco, big sigh of relief there.
Ooh, wow.
Is he able to play
Picks
now?
up MALIS in Underground. This is a card that you definitely basically negate by discarding another Lancea. 1,600 damage is going to be dealt. Turns are going to be passed. Is Crook going to pick up another starter that plays around SP as well? Because that is a decent interruption. What is it going to be? 2,800 life points remaining on the side of Crook here. So this is a short clock.
It is really. We need a good draw here. Is it one though? Crook, do we have a play heading into the main phase? Looking into the graveyard? I think there might be something. We do also still have some in the graveyard that can just discard.
Crazy Otl?
Yeah, he's playing that one, actually. That's not very common, but it could be the CRYSTON Crazy Ortal. But we do just use the graveyard effect of Sulfafnir, discarding exactly that Crazy Turtle.
All right, let me read this card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one CRYSTON monster from your hand.
Yeah.
Which is a bit unfortunate.
But I mean, we just use the graveyard effect here to discard it, and that should work, right?
Yeah.
Crook is explaining it to Marco. There's nothing we could banish right now with the Little Knight, as there is no other monsters on the field for the moment. So there it is, destroying itself again. We saw that earlier, and we can now just use the graveyard effect. So Crook has found a way to play the game. But how far is it going to bring him?
Yep, there is SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is always looking strong. If you get into your Synchro Monsters engine, you can activate your graveyard effect. That is also powerful. However, then SP Little Knight can take care of that monster. So you have to basically summon a Synchro Monster, attack over SP Little Knight, and then continue playing the game, if that is possible for you.
Yep, and there is now CRYSTON Sulfador summoned off of the Sulfafnir. The thing is, Sulfafnir only allows you to special summon in defense position. Otherwise, that Sulfador would have been good enough to just attack over the SP Little Knight, but now we use the Little Knight. But Smyger is still being sent to the graveyard.
Oh, wow.
I mean, sending Smyger to the graveyard is all we need because that gives us inclusion. Yep. And we're also going to send now the other one of the CRYSTON Tisvern to the graveyard. And I think that's everything that that Crook needs, because he has all the triple tactic talents now to eliminate the last chance in his hand. And we can now use the Tisvern and also the Smyger, giving us not one but two interactions from the graveyard. Crook only has to eliminate another 3,300 life points.
And now it's just a combo tutorial from Crook when some resources are in the graveyard and some aren't. This is going to be a field day for him. He hasn't normal summoned at all yet.
We can search a monster with his burn, and we're probably searching just towers here. Yeah, there it is. Easy. And Marco is nodding. He knows that's not looking good. Smyger not even activated. Can grab us the inclusion as well. This is looking fabulous here for Crook.
Marco should consider the time also, because MALIS is a very trick deck considering time, and if they go to game 3, you know, maybe a strict situation.
Yeah, but Crook is leading 1-0, and Marco is not having any cards on the field or on the hand, so I think that time might not be an option. I don't think that
on game 3.
I mean, Crook would take it 2-0 if he wins now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
in my mind it was different.
Crystal Inclusion. I mean, the Tristaros has many powerful effects, but one thing that he's kind of lacking is a lot of attack points. Only 800 right now staring down Marco, but Crook is cooking. Crook is going to bring more onto the field, destroying the Inclusion now. Special summoning out, this time in attack position, the CRYSTON Sulfador. So that's another 1900. We're getting closer. Not much more attack points needed. There is now enough on the field. We do Synchro Summon. Crook, yeah.
There's a lot of super rares and commons on the field right now and in the graveyards. And there's the handshake. Crook takes it 2-0 with the CRYSTON strategy.
Oh, I told you from the beginning.
Marco almost